I'm just gonna first off say that I am not going to spoil Spider-Man No Way Home.
You told me once to forget the past, because it doesn't matter. But nothing good came of it. There was no place for me to return to. This was the only place I could go.
Growing up, I used to collect comic books. And as my mom would go to the Filipino restaurant to buy Filipino food, next door there would be a corner store slash bodega, whichever you prefer to call it, and they would sell comic books on the racks next to the newspapers, and I would always grab the next new issue of Spider-Man. For real. I remember even my next door neighbors who were senior citizens, God bless them, every time they would see Spider-Man comics in the newspaper, they would always come over and give them to me and my sister. And even back then, when in our local mall there was a comic book stand in the food court, doesn't exist anymore. I remember buying comic books. Doesn't necessarily have to be Spider-Man. I was also a big fan of Batman. And for me, there's just a whole nostalgic feeling whenever it came to just superheroes and Spider-Man especially. And being the fact that I grew up in the time when the first live action movies came out with Tobey Maguire, it's just so surreal because I remember being that person who would be at the movie theater on the first day when Spider-Man came out. And there was no live action movie that came out before, so it was very exciting. The hype was real just because it has never been done before. And I always felt that I related to Peter Parker because, for one, after watching a lot of the cartoons, I never related to Mary Jane Watson. I always related to Peter Parker just because I felt that I was always misunderstood going to school. I was always the school photographer. I just felt that I was very close to my family, which he's very close to his, and it just resonated with me just so much, just watching Spider-Man as a superhero and just being Peter Parker himself. And so it's just crazy that we grew up in this time where I remember watching the first Avengers movie, and that till this day has been the biggest and longest line I've ever waited on to watch a movie. I remember when the first Avengers movie came out, everyone and their mom wanted to watch that movie, and they would repeatedly want to go watch that movie again, and it would just be so difficult to even get seats for like a group of friends, you know? And for me, it's just to have no superhero movies, like barely, besides Superman or Batman, to look back on. And then now you just have so many MCU slash DC films. I just feel like I just told my friends earlier that we'll be senior citizens ourselves, and then by that time there will be hundreds of superhero movies by that time, and we'll probably still be in the same predicament where we're just gonna keep watching what is going on in the universe of superheroes. And it's also something to think about that for me, I enjoy many genres of films. However, I know people who now I've heard don't like to watch superhero movies because it's just been so saturated with the universe of the MCU growing, and it's just the fact that the franchise just keeps making more and more movies that it just seems that in order to feel like you reach success in filmmaking, you have to direct a superhero movie. And for me, I feel that I don't know if I'll ever reach that point in my life where I'll direct a superhero film. But if I were to choose one, it would probably be Spider-Man. And I've always just had a soft spot for him, and I don't know. I see all the other superheroes and ones that I've never even heard of, and I always ask myself, do I relate to this character? Do I see myself like just wanting to know more about them? And then I find myself still going back to Spider-Man. And so the fact that this new film just came out, it's just exciting because the year is almost over and we are really lucky to be able to watch this before the year ends. And I hope that many people watch it. I will be honest, I'm not a big Tom Holland fan as Spider-Man, but it's really cute to see that he has been such a big fan since he was a kid, and to see his childhood photo as Spider-Man and then seeing him actually act the part in movies is, really cute to see. But I will always be a strong, diehard Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan. And also Andrew Garfield. I like the narrative more in that Amazing Spider-Man series just because he was in search of his parents. And anything that involves parents, I just get really sappy. But Andrew Garfield himself also is very charismatic and funny, whereas Tobey Maguire felt like when it comes to Spider-Man, he was more of the existential, trying to figure out who he is, and he felt like really different from everyone else. And all of that all relates to Peter Parker in some sort of way. And Tom Holland brings the youthfulness of Spider-Man and more of the I don't care or whatever comes out of my mouth, but sure, we'll go with it type of character. So for me, I just get all really mushy when it comes to Spider-Man, and I just wanted to share that. I really enjoyed the new film that came out, and I just have no complaints. And for me, watching superhero movies has always been a reason to have some sort of reunion, watching it with my family or having a reason to watch it with a group of friends. It's just became a ritual. And it's also just probably that is the whole aspect of superhero movies, that yeah, it's entertaining, yeah, it's something to talk about, but also it is a reason for people to come together and watch something and just spend time doing that. And I don't know if anyone else relates in whatever it is that I'm saying, but that's just what comes to mind when it comes to superhero movies. And it's just really hilarious to me when people just say, I hate superhero movies, don't even talk to me about it. And those might be the people who are super cinephiles, film buffs that just really are all about the craft and the art, and they think that you're just a sellout if you watch superhero movies or have anything to do with it. And that's where I just think it's interesting enough to think about how diverse the superhero world is, because there's just so many different characters and you can go in different directions and just give them different powers, and to just see how they all connect or how they don't, and how they hate each other, or how they just have all these sort of animosity and feelings towards each other. It's just an interesting thought to think about how people just come up with these things even years ago, way before when it even became movies. It was just all sketches and animations on freaking paper. And like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing who else out there gets created and comes to life into the cinematic world. And yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts about maybe your stories and how you grew up in watching superheroes, and maybe you have other history or experiences when it comes to reading comics. For me, it's just a given. Would you rather read a whole novel, or would you just go through a graphic novel? And I think graphic novels are always obviously fun to go through and read. The only sad part is that it'll just be over much faster than reading a all word written novel. So I'm just gonna leave it there. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned till the next video. Sayonara. It's the end of the video, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, it will help me in the long run. Okay, bye.